If you have ever listened to the radio, you have heard his ghost. He is the heartbeat behind the greatest songs of the 20th century. When you listen to the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, you are hearing his hands. As John Lennon stepped into his solo years and dreamed of a world with no possessions, Jim Gordon was there in the studio on key sessions, quietly keeping time. And when Eric Clapton fell to his knees in musical agony on the song Layla, it was this man who sat at the piano and composed the hauntingly beautiful outro that still brings tears to the eyes of millions. He was the golden boy of the 1970s, a musician so talented that he was courted by rock royalty, from the Beach Boys to former Beatles, and worshipped by his peers. He had the looks of a movie star, the bank account of a prince, and a talent that comes along once in a generation. But inside his head, a war was raging. A war that would transform this creator of beauty into a monster capable of an act so violent, so unnatural, that it defies comprehension. This is not just a story about the tragic fall of a rock star. It is a glimpse into a mind fracturing under the weight of a darkness that no amount of fame could outrun. This is the story of Jim Gordon, the man who drummed for the gods while listening to the devil. To understand the horror of the end, we must appreciate the brilliance of the beginning. In the late 1960s and early 70s, Jim Gordon was untouchable. He was the drummer everyone wanted. He didn't just play the drums, he made them sing. He was a member of the Wrecking Crew, the legendary group of session musicians who played on virtually every hit record coming out of Los Angeles. But his crowning achievement came when he joined Eric Clapton to form Derek and the Dominos. It was during these sessions that the song Layla was born. The first half is a furious storm of guitars, but the second half, the famous piano exit, is pure, melancholic beauty. That was Jim Gordon. He wrote it. He played it. It stands as one of the most iconic pieces of music in rock history, a testament to a sensitive, artistic soul. But there was a secret hidden in that melody. Rita Coolidge later claimed that he had taken that piano theme from a song they had written together, an act of betrayal that to some foreshadowed the violence to come. Others say it was his one true moment of clarity before the fog descended. Because while Jim was playing on the biggest stages in the world, he was never alone. He began to hear voices. At first, they were whispers, paranoid thoughts that his bandmates were plotting against him, that the technicians were sabotaging him. But soon, the whispers turned into screams, and one voice rose above them all, the voice of his mother. In reality, Osa Gordon was a loving, supportive mother who had always championed her son's career. But in the twisted landscape of Jim's undiagnosed schizophrenia, she became the architect of his doom. The voice in his head, which sounded exactly like her, would torment him day and night. It told him he was worthless. It told him not to eat. It told him that he was dying. He tried to drown the voices out with alcohol and hard drugs, the standard medication for rock stars of the era. But the substances only turned the volume up. The cracks began to show publicly. The golden boy started to terrify the women he claimed to love. He assaulted Rita Coolidge in a hotel hallway, ending their relationship with a single, brutal punch. He attacked his wife. He was becoming a pariah. By the late 70s, the phone stopped ringing. The man who had played with George Harrison and Steely Dan was now sitting alone in his house, starving himself because the voice of his mother told him the food was poisoned. He was living in a self-imposed prison of the mind, convinced that the woman who had raised him was somehow behind his torment, poisoning him from afar and cursing his every move. He checked himself into psychiatric hospitals repeatedly, telling doctors about the voices, begging for help, insisting that his mother was killing him. But the doctors in the early 80s missed the signs. They treated him for alcoholism. They treated him for depression. They released him back into the world, a ticking time bomb with a drumstick in one hand and a hammer in the other. The explosion happened on June 3rd, 1983. The man who had given the world the tender piano notes of Layla drove to his mother's house in North Hollywood. He didn't go there as a son visiting a parent. He went there as a soldier on a mission to silence the enemy commander. When Osa Gordon opened the door, she saw the son she loved. Jim Gordon saw a demon. The details of what happened next are the stuff of nightmares. He attacked her with a hammer, and when that wasn't enough, he used a knife to finish the job. It was an act of medieval brutality. When the police arrived, they found Jim sitting calmly. He told them with chilling rationality that he had merely done what was necessary to stop the torment. He believed in that moment that he had acted in self-defense against a spiritual assault. The trial was a spectacle of tragedy. When the diagnosis finally came, acute paranoid schizophrenia, it was too late. The music industry, which had used his talent to sell millions of records, turned its back on him. He was sentenced to 16 years to life. He walked into prison in 1984 and never walked out. For nearly 40 years, Jim Gordon lived behind bars, a forgotten relic of the classic rock era. But his music never stopped playing. Every time Layla played on the radio, generating royalties and joy for listeners around the world. The man who wrote that Coda was sitting in a cell at a psychiatric prison facility, medicated, grey, and alone. He died there in 2023. There is a profound and terrifying irony in his legacy. We categorize people as good or evil, artist or killer. Jim Gordon forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that a person can be both. He was a vessel for divine inspiration and a vessel for demonic delusion. When you listen to that piano coda now, knowing what hands played it, the song changes. It no longer sounds just like a love song. It sounds like a funeral march. It sounds like a goodbye from a man who was already slipping away, a final, desperate attempt to create something beautiful before the darkness took him completely. We are left with the art, but we must never forget the cost. The silence he sought by killing the only person who truly loved him was a silence he never found. In the end, the only rhythm that remained was the beating of his own tortured heart, waiting for the final measure to end.